Hello everybody and welcome to the GradCracker webinar. Today's webinar features the Science and Technologies Facilities Council, also known as STFC. So who are they? STFC is one of Europe's largest research organisations. And what do? They work on a variety of engineering, research and technology projects. They work on everything from cancer research to clean energy and powering transport. They also work in a variety of sectors, which include things like space, pharmaceuticals, digital animation, physics-based manufacturing. So they cover nearly everything that you could possibly imagine. If you do check out their hub on GradCracker, it's full of information, including what it's like to work for them, the graduate and internship journeys, hints and tips, guidance and advice. So after the webinar, make sure you take a look and find out more. Obviously, we'll be covering all of that information today as part of this webinar. So yeah, really excited to get to know the grads and the interns a little bit more, and obviously Ben as well, who is the recruitment manager there at STFC. Just to give you a bit of background, so Jess and I actually visited STFC in Oxfordshire a couple of years ago, and I think you'll second this, Jess, but we were absolutely blown away by the facilities there. I mean, it is huge. We actually got lost and we had to be guided. Can you remember?
Yeah, I was driving around, I was like, where are we?
It was good though, because we just like pulled up and somebody said, oh, do you know where this is? And they helped us and we got a map and everything else. It was absolutely fine.
It was amazing, isn't it? It's like almost like a huge campus, wasn't it? Really, yeah, if you were to describe it. It's like a big university campus. Yeah, it was brilliant, exactly. Really, really nice, really posh.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go on and say. It was a real campus feel. And we, during our trip, we met a graduate, so he was a graduate there, and he took us on a journey all the way through STFC's history, the on-campus facilities that they've got there, and what they did. And he actually treated us to lunch, which was nice, because we don't normally get that when we go out to visit places. So yeah, the general vibe, the campus and everything else was really good. So hopefully if you're a student out there and you're thinking, oh, do I want to apply to STFC, then I would definitely think it's worth a go, worth a shot. And they've got plenty of different types of opportunities which are also open for you to apply for, which Ben again will cover a little bit later on as part of the webinar. So to do introductions, so I've said Ben, I've kind of mentioned you quite a few times now in your job. I've worked with Ben now for a good few years. Ben and I's relationship is based on Ben pulling his hair out about when their opportunities are open and everything like that, which we have experienced together over the last couple of weeks. But just so you can introduce yourself, Ben, could you just tell everybody who you are and a brief introduction about your role?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so thank you, Carla. So my name's Ben. Yeah, I'm the Early Careers Recruitment Manager at STFC. So I oversee the recruitment within my team for all of our graduate placements, graduate opportunities, industrial placements, and our summer placement students as well. And we've been starting to work with our apprentice team as well within STFC to work in that area as well. So that's coming under my team. We work really closely with the learning and development teams as well. So there's a separate team that sort of manage the L&D side of things on the graduate scheme. But yeah, as I say, my role and responsibility is to manage and oversee the recruitment for all of our early careers opportunities.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. And for somebody who's watching, will they get to meet you as part of the application process?
You almost definitely will. Yes. Yeah. So, throughout, well, you'll have my team's contact details throughout the entire process. So if you've ever got any questions about the process itself or anything like that, then you can get in touch with us all really easily. We're really approachable as well. So yes, I'm sure my name or someone in my team's name will crop up over the next few months.
Fab. And if you look, if you look behind Ben as well, I was just looking behind you, Ben. I haven't got my specs on, but that's the facilities there, isn't it, at Oxfordshire?
It is, yeah. So this, behind me is it's the Harwell campus. So it's a massive, great big science site. We've got all sorts on there that we'll talk a little bit more about, I think, later on. But yeah, it's a really exciting, cutting edge place.
Yeah, cool. Thanks very much, Ben. And now over to the grads and interns. So it's going to be a little bit confusing because we've got two Beckys, but we like to make life a little bit challenging for ourselves. So we've got Becky F and Becky H. So Becky F, could you introduce yourself, what university you studied at and what you studied, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Becky. I originally did a master's in astrophysics at the University of Liverpool, and I finished the graduate scheme a couple of years ago, and now I'm working as a research software engineer.
Fantastic. So what does a research engineer actually do? What kind of research do you carry out?
So a research software engineer is somewhere between a scientist and a software engineer. It's quite a new label. It's sort of a job that's only come about in the past 7 years or so. And I basically help scientists and write software to enable them to analyse and simulate their data.
Oh, wow. Cool. Thanks, Becky. And Jess will touch on that a little bit later on as part of the webinar. Becky H, I've done it, Becky F. Becky H, if I could come to you. So similar question, what did you study at university? Which uni did you go to? And what do you do now at STFC?
So hi, I'm also Becky. I went to Plymouth University and I did an integrated master's in robotics, and I now work as a graduate control software engineer as part of the central laser facility at STFC.
Fantastic. I'm quite excited about Becky as well. So Becky H, this morning she got in touch with her old lecturer at Plymouth University, and I know he's now watching. He or she, Becky, should I say?
A shout out to everyone at Plymouth.
Yeah.
Hello.
He's now watching, and then there's loads of students there who are actually logged into the call. So heads up to you guys. I hope you're all enjoying it.
Hi,
And credit to your tutor as well. He's obviously done a fantastic job in teaching and educating you to get to where you are at STFC. So yeah, welcome everybody. And Matt, last but by no means least, if you want to introduce yourselves, same questions.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Matt. I'm studying integrated masters in computer science at the University of Leeds. I'm in my 4th year of studies. I'm currently on an industrial placement at STFC, and my role is scientific software engineer.
Brilliant, thank you. I didn't realise you went to Leeds. I love Yorkshire. So, right. What was that, sorry?
Sorry. Leeds.
I was going to do that, but I thought best not. You've done introduction. I have given everybody a bit of a brief introduction to who STFC is. But this is a question to you, Ben. What do you think that other people should know? So, for example, how are you funded? And kind of a secondary question to that, are there any misconceptions about STFC that you would like to cover as part of this webinar?
Yeah, absolutely. So STFC is, well, we're a massive organisation.
Yes.
We've got sites all across the UK. So we've got the big Harwell campus in Oxfordshire, but we're up in at the Daresbury laboratory as well, which is up towards Liverpool. We've got a site in Edinburgh, which is that's where sort of our astronomy teams live as well. So we are massive, and there are a couple of thousand people across STFC as well. So we're publicly funded. So we are a non-departmental government body. So what that means is we sort of work with BEIS, the government, and we are funded by taxpayers' money. And so obviously we're not for profit, but all of our facilities are open for, sort of startup companies can come and use them. We get a lot of university students doing projects, PhD students, for example, are all welcome to come and use the facilities that we've got, because you can't find some of these sort of things on university campuses. So we've got a collection of some of the world's finest science technology across all of the various sites. So there's a lot that goes on, and hopefully today we'll be able to give you a bit of a behind the scenes look, I suppose, as to what goes on at STFC and some of the science that happens here as well.
Yeah, I know that the grads are going to speak a little bit later on about the experience that they've gained and the projects that they've been working on as well. So really looking forward to that. Okay, Ben, so we're going to come back to you a little bit later on towards the end of the webinar. You're going to cover off the different types of opportunities which will be open to students who want to apply, and also the recruitment process. how things have changed. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment in the world with COVID and everything else, but Ben would like to answer in more detail about how the recruitment process has changed and what they're going to do moving forward. And then Ben's also going to give you, the audience, lots of hints and tips about applying to STFC. So for now, thanks everybody, thanks for the introductions. I'm going to hand over to Jessica. Got your full title, Jess, who is going to speak to the grads and also Matt as well, the intern. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. So, Matt, I'm going to start with you. That's okay, my love. So, what I want to know is, obviously you're in your placement role at the moment, which is very exciting. Going right back to the beginning then, how did you find out about STFC initially?
So my university told me about GradCracker, which is what made me make an account on there. And then I started searching all the different placements within computing and technology, I think it's called on your website. So yeah, I was just following employers through the list and then came across STFC. I'd already heard great things about STFC, so which is why I followed them. And then after a couple of weeks, I got an alert to say the placements are available and I started applying from there.
Brilliant. And if you don't mind me asking, what made STFC stand out to you versus the other companies? I know you said that, you know, you heard a lot of good stuff about them, but what were those good things?
So I actually had a friend who did a placement here last year, and he basically just said the campus was amazing, all the staff are friendly. It's like going to university for another year, but you're getting paid. So that was a massive selling point for me. But yeah, I also sort of knew with my career I wanted to go into scientific computing. So I saw the science highlights from the ISIS neutron and muon source, and it all just sounds really interesting and like great to be a part of. So I thought STFC was the best place to start my career.
Brilliant. So now you're on, so where are you at, sorry, in your placement now? Are you coming to the end or?
So I'm still at the beginning. I started in July, so I'm...
Started in July, brilliant. Starting in July. And what have you been doing since July? What does a typical day look like for you, Matt?
So a normal day, I have a meeting every day. We call it a stand-up meeting. And it's basically just your team gets together and we sort of just say what we're working on or what we've just finished working on. We just let each other know what's happening so we don't do the same thing twice.
Right.
You can also ask for help as well in those meetings. They're normally about 20 minutes every day. And then once you've done that, I'll probably go on to a bit of coding. So I work mostly in C++ and Python. I work on lots of different parts of the software that I work on, but I'll explain more of that a little bit later. So yeah, as well as coding, I also review other people's work. So the software I work on is called Manted. It's actually worked on by lots of different facilities. So people from France or America also work on a software, and we all submit our work and we have to review each other's work to make sure it's all up to scratch. And so that's another big part of the job, just going through and testing and making sure it all works fine.
That's a lot of responsibility for a placement student
to
be checking other people's work.
But you're really part of the team. They don't sort of just chuck you to the side.
Oh, brilliant. So can you tell me a bit, obviously doing the Manted program sounds brilliant, but is there anything else that's kind of been a real eye-opener, real good experience since you joined in July?
So we have a release coming out on Monday, and as part of that we had to do some beta testing with the scientists, and I was actually fortunate enough to take part in that. So I was able to sit on a Zoom call with a particular scientist, and he was testing a feature that I'd written. And I was getting positive feedback as it was coming out. So, oh, this is great. Like, I can now do this. And just like having that feedback there was really good.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Am I allowed to ask what was the project about? Can you?
Yeah, it's all public information.
Okay.
Anybody can go and look at it. People say, oh, it's the government, it's secret. It's really not. It's for everybody. So the project itself is called Manted. It's used all over the world, actually. It's a generic data reduction software without being too technical. So you heard me mention earlier the ISIS neutron and muon source. So scientists run experiments using this source, and they get lots and lots of data coming off of it. So they will then go to Mantid and they'll feed in the data, do some processing, and they get useful information out about the structure of what they're trying to analyze, or magnetic field strengths, like all around. It's really complicated stuff. I couldn't tell you much about it. But yeah, so it's just a lot of science, basically.
Wow. So I can imagine, you know, the experience that you've had so far, you could probably see they're going to be very beneficial to you in, you know, in the future. And can you see yourself coming back to STFC when, you know, when you finished your placement?
Yeah, I mean, like actually in the team now, there's a lot of people who have been on placement and they've come back. So that's a really good sign to see.
Yeah,
that people are coming back. So yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
definitely. Yeah. Fab. Well, that was really good. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that overview of the experience you've had so far. Becky, I'm going to move to you next. Sorry, Becky H. I'm going to move to you next, Besha. So, so you're a current grad. You're on the grad scheme. Can you tell me a bit about, you know, did you do a placement first, or did you go straight onto the grad program? Tell me a bit about your first experiences with STFC.
Yep. So I did a year-long placement as well, but my placement year was actually at the Daresbury laboratory, which is the one near Warrington. And then after I completed that, I came down to the Harwell campus in Oxfordshire. So on my placement, I was part of the control system and safety interlocks group, and it's actually quite a similar role to the one I'm now in. So I worked on like Clara, which is a linear particle accelerator, and I got to like meet loads of different engineers and scientists, and I had a really good time basically. And I got to do extra stuff too, like be part of the Women in STEM committee and get involved in public engagement as well.
Fantastic. So why did you choose to apply to STFC? What made STF stand out to you initially?
Yeah, so I chose to come back to do the grad scheme basically just because I'd enjoyed my placement so much. So
Yeah.
the role I'm in now is quite similar. So I knew that I enjoyed the actual work. So it just made sense basically to come back and do something similar again, but just on the other site. And in general, it's like really, really interesting technical work and getting so involved. Like, I'm not a scientist, but you get quite involved with the science and you get to learn a lot about different fields and topics, which is really cool. And like it's all quite impactful as well. Like you mentioned, for example, it's like can go towards like cancer research and stuff, and so it's really cool to know that the science that you're aiding is then actually like impacting people's lives. And just in general, the feel of it. I think Ben's already mentioned about the sort of like campus feel and stuff on the RAL site, but it's the same at the Daresbury laboratory as well. And I can say that, yeah, both of the ones I've worked on are really similar, and it's just a lovely place to be.
Oh, that's good. So day-to-day life then, what's kind of a normal day looking like for you at the moment? I'm guessing, are you working from home?
I am, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so working from home. How's that? What's life like at the moment then for you, being at home and still manage to do your job?
Yeah, so normal sort of day job is that I write software for we use something called epics, which is for making distributed control systems. So I will write software to communicate with a device, say like a motor or a vacuum gauge or something. And then the software that I write allows scientists to monitor and control things. And so they can do that from any PC as long as it's on the same network, which is quite cool. And the grad scheme itself, generally you get to do a lot of like soft skills training, and also being part of a graduate cohort means that you automatically kind of like part of a community. And the networking with other graduates has been really helpful. So like, for example, I've made some friends who are at the ISIS neutron and muon source, and we discovered that we all use epics, and we were like, oh, okay then. So we've like met up sometimes to just like talk about how to use epics and how to get used to it, because it is quite a specific technology that's only really used for like particle accelerators and lasers and big facilities. So it's not something you'd probably come across at uni. So it's been really good, like having other people that are in the same boat.
Sorry, interrupt. I was about to. What does an epic mean? Can you just explain that to me?
Yes. So EPIC stands for experimental physics and industrial control system. I definitely
Okay.
didn't almost forget that. And so it's a set of software tools, I suppose you'd say, that is what allows you to have that distributed control system so that everyone can access all the devices from anywhere, sort of thing.
Right, I see. Brilliant. So, you know, obviously doing stuff like that is kind of additional to your grad program. You know, I guess, you know, you've kind of made the effort of getting these people together, realizing that you do this, you know, you all using the epic. So is there any other things that you do that you kind of doing additional to your grad program? You know, you've mentioned about women in engineering. What kind of other experiences have you had so far?
Yeah, so since I joined RAL, I've rejoined the Women in STEM committee. So I'll help like discuss current issues, and we run events. And for example, recently I was lucky enough to get somebody had written a book on equality, gender equality in the workplace, and I managed to get them to come in and speak to us and do like a book club event. So like that was an amazing opportunity. And so like and that's quite a good thing in terms of like skills building as well. So it's not only the events themselves, but the kind of what you learn from it as well, and stuff like, to be honest, today this is a pretty good like public speaking opportunity. So yeah, just all sorts of stuff really, just getting involved in lots of things.
Which kind of leads me on to my second question, because about I know that STFC encourage their grads to become STEM ambassadors. So I'm guessing now you are a STEM ambassador, and could you tell the students a bit about what a STEM ambassador does and the work that you've been doing off the back of that as well? Yeah,
definitely. So I think it's been mentioned already, but STFC does like a lot of public engagement work, and it's sort of really like key that we want to engage people to get people interested in STEM. So back when we were on site, it could be, for example, groups of kids coming in to receive talks, or we had like workshops and things. So like you might show someone a cool science experiment and then explain how it works, show them around the site, that sort of thing. But it's actually been really cool since we've all been working from home. That's all like kept happening. Like obviously we can't bring people on site, but recently I helped with some students were doing like a Python project, learning about Python. And like we just all joined a Zoom call and did like a question and answer thing. So they could say like, why doesn't my code run? And you say, oh, you're missing like this thing to do with the syntax or whatever. And yeah, it means like we can still all get involved and get people interested in STEM subjects, even though we can't meet up face to face, which I think is awesome.
That is really good. And you must be really proud of yourself, you know, so early on in your career that you're giving back and you're inspiring young people. I love it that you can have the opportunity to do that. So it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. And generally, well, like Matt said, like you really get given like proper responsibility. Like it is, I know this is like really cheesy because everyone says this, but it's like a real job from day one, basically. I know that's like the phrase that's always used, but like I get involved in like quite big projects, and like I'm like a key part of certain teams for things, and sometimes I'm like, why am I being trusted with this? But like it's just that they really think that, you know, they've hired you, and so they know that they trust you to do the job, basically. So yeah, it's really, really nice.
And Matt, that sounds like, you know, really what you've said, and you've, like I said, only been there since July, and you've been handed such early responsibilities, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we're just thrown into the deep end.
Hopefully you've got a little bit of a life jacket on.
Yeah, they're always there to help.
Good. So talk about top secret then. Sticking with you, Becky, still, what is the kind of projects that you're working on now? Can you give us kind of an inside scoop on the projects that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. I'll just talk a bit about what is going on at the CLF at the moment generally. So we've got a new massive project called EPAC, which stands for Extreme Photonics Application Centre, which is going to be a laser-driven accelerator, which is really exciting. And it's going to allow us to, well, we're going to build on existing technology and allow us to do new types of experiments. So for example, like high-resolution imaging for inspecting components. And so this is like a multi-million-pound project where from nothing we're having to go from, at the moment they're like pouring concrete into the ground to build it, we've got to go from that to complete working laser system. So there's like all kinds of new challenges because it's so much bigger. It's like, how are we going to handle the amount of data? How are we going to handle like networking and like the sheer distance between one end to the other? So there's like all these little things where you wouldn't initially think about it, but there's so much work going on in so many different little areas to work together to make that project. So it's really cool. And I'm part of a few sort of like, sorry?
I keep talking over you. I do apologise.
No, it's fine.
Becky. That's going to be transformational though for STFC. This is going to be a massive project for you all. So will you be involved from start to finish?
Yes, so I've already been involved in a few meetings to do with it. So I'm part of like some of the like working groups for it. So we're having the discussions now and, you know, doing sort of like requirements gathering, figuring out what we need, how we're going to do it, thinking about what sort of manufacturers to use for certain parts. And yeah, I'll be working on it all the way through to the completion of the build and possibly supporting it after that as well. So yeah, really sort of start to finish. And it blows my mind a little bit because it's going to take something like, I think, 4 years off the top of my head. So, you know, I'd like to think that, you know, I'll still be here and I'll work on it and I'll get to see this huge project from literally nothing to a working facility, which is like really exciting. And just to add one more unrelated thing, just as a nice sort of like shout out to some nice research. Some CLF scientists recently collaborated with some scientists at some universities, and they've found something that can fight like superbugs, which sounds really cool. Like antibiotic resistant superbugs. So like, yeah, it goes to show again that like it's really impactful work and it's really cool to be involved.
Yeah, I can imagine it is. You know, it feels as though, you know, when you go to work, you come home at the end of the day, you think, you know, the work that you're doing is valid and it's making the world a better place, which is really impressive and it must be a lovely feeling to have.
Definitely.
So, you know, you've touched upon how, you know, kind of your 5-year plan and hoping that you will stay there. Will this project, the big project you're talking about, will that be finished, do you think, in 5 years? Do you think you'll be
I think so, yeah. So I think, generally speaking, I don't really know exactly where I think I'll be in 5 years, but I know that I would like to still be in the same team because I'm really, really enjoying it. And I maybe just get involved in more different projects and perhaps potentially take on more responsibility. I don't know. But basically, I just want to do what I enjoy and what I'm interested in. And STFC is really good at supporting that. So like, brilliant. That's the best thing I could wish for, really. Like, they really listen to, so what is it you want to focus on? What do you want to go into as your career progresses? And so that's like really helpful and really cool.
So you must have found that quite early on then, that, you know, you can kind of carve your own path throughout the grad scheme and make it yours and make it, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. So whenever we have like meetings, you know, like line manager meetings, they'll ask like, is there any training you need to be sent on to go in the direction you want to go? And like, would you rather get involved in this or this? And yeah, it really is. They help you shape your career in the way that you want to, which is brilliant. Brilliant.
That's great. Thanks, Becky. So Becky F, moving over to you. So obviously your role's a slightly bit different, as you mentioned right at the beginning, so it sounds very interesting. What made you initially go into the role that you're in now?
So during my, yes, sure. While doing my degree, I'd done a couple of programming modules, and I hadn't really done any programming before, but I thought that was really interesting. So I wanted to continue doing that, and with a science application, because I'm also really interested in science. So when I saw STFC advertising for scientific computing jobs, I thought science computing, that's perfect for me. So yeah.
Brilliant. So what kind of initially attracted you to STFC? Obviously you've said you kind of saw the collaboration of both, but, you know, was you already interested in that kind of route, that career of scientific research, or?
So I think, so I sort of considered doing a PhD for a while, but then I thought that it was too similar to what I was already doing at university for 4 years. So I wanted something a bit different, and STFC seemed like a really sort of great sort of halfway between academia and industry, and all the science that they do with their facilities, ISIS, Diamonds, and Central Laser Facility was really interesting. And also their international collaborations with the Large Hadron Collider, Square Kilometre Array, things like that. I just thought it was really impressive and a great opportunity.
Definitely, yeah, very impressive. So can you tell me a bit about your department, Becky? So it's the scientific computing department, am I right in saying that you work in? You've shot it down to the SCD. Can you tell me a bit about that department and what it's actually like?
Yeah, sure. It's really hard to summarise what we do, but sort of in a nutshell, it would be we provide computational expertise to support science and UK industry. So we do that in a variety of ways, from modelling, software development, data storage. So to give you some examples, we've got a computational science and engineering division. So that basically combines modelling and high performance computing to solve problems in all areas of science, chemistry, biology, physics. And that can be applied to a lot of things, for example, creating more efficient battery storage, anti-cancer drugs, that sort of thing. And we also have, for example, a machine learning group which formed in 2018. So that's quite, so we're constantly evolving to take advantage of new technologies. And they've already done some really interesting work. For example, identifying cloud coverage in satellite images and detecting damage in optics for the Central Laser Facility, for example.
Brilliant. Could you kind of, sounds like some impressive projects you've worked on. What's kind of been your favourite project you've worked on so far?
So just to give everyone a summary, during the SCD graduate scheme, you do 4 6-month projects during your 2 years in the graduate scheme. And my favourite one was working in the application performance engineering group. So they do high performance software development. And I worked on a fluid dynamics code. So that's basically simulating fluids for things like coastal defences or oil rigs, that sort of thing. So it was quite a technical research project. So they basically model parts of fluid as particles, and you have lots of these all together. And I basically worked on trying to order the information about these particles in computer memory so that the ones that are close in physical space are also close in memory to try and improve performance. So that was quite a technical research project. But at the end, so I found that really interesting. And at the end, I ended up writing a conference paper and going to talk at a conference in Spain for that.
Wow.
So that was a week-long conference, and I got to talk to lots of people, eat lots of nice food, enjoy the sun. So that was a really nice way to round off the project.
Perfect. Again, it's a similar experience. You've been given a lot of responsibility, haven't you, to kind of understand, take on that project, and then present it at the end of it, which is really impressive. Becky, when did you finish your graduate scheme then?
So I finished the graduate scheme in 2017. Yeah, so about 3 years ago. So I've been at STFC for 5 years. So
yeah. Brilliant. And so tell me a bit about what you've been doing since the graduate scheme.
Yeah, sure. So at the end of the graduate scheme, you're guaranteed a permanent job at the end. So in SCD, you can sort of go and sort of figure out where you want to be based on what you've been interested in. Because I was interested in scientific software development, I went to the computational physics group. So that's where I work at the moment. I'm currently working on a project with a research group in ISIS called the Excitations Group, and they investigate vibrations in materials. And they have their own set of instruments that have real problems analysing the sort of vast amounts of data that comes off those instruments. So I basically, now I'm a lead developer on a Python package that we're developing to help them simulate their data. So that involves sort of speaking to scientists, getting their requirements, learning new science, and figuring out how to translate that into efficient code, which is something I really enjoy.
Yeah, I bet. Again, hearing from all your experiences, you kind of get the experience of speaking to loads of different types of people. You've said you're speaking to scientists, you're speaking to tech people, that the computer side, and it must be really good for personal skills to kind of build up your communication skills, build up those presentation skills, and also reporting back and things like that. You're getting a real good exposure personally, as well as working with some fantastic people, which just seems really, really positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you say, what kind of advice could you give to someone who's considering going on the graduate scheme, Becky? You know, what kind of experience really shone out to you, and would you, you know, what I'm trying to say, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about applying to STFC?
I would just say, yeah, having a real enthusiasm for science is a really important thing, and if you've got that, then you're halfway there. So yeah, just be yourself, have enthusiasm, and yeah, that's all I can say.
Brilliant. No, this sounds like you nailed it to me. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, guys. Carla, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Jess, and thanks everybody. So Ben, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know we've got like questions that we want to cover off, but there's a few bits and pieces that I scribbled down on my pad that the Beckys and Matt mentioned during their little section there. So just to, I mean, all of the grads and Matt spoke about the different locations that they could be based. Do you get to choose the location that you want to be based in, or is that dependent on which area of the business are you going to go into?
It's dependent on, yeah, which department you want to go to within the organisation, because all of our different departments tend to be based at different sites. So yeah, so the role, rather than choosing which location, it depends upon the role you want to apply for.
Yeah.
But we usually have quite a nice spread across sites anyway.
Yeah, okay. And obviously when the roles are going to be live on Monday,
yep,
which we are very excited to say. So when the roles go live on Monday, obviously the location will be specified within the role. On GradCracker, if you wanted to work for a certain location, you can even use the search and the location search on the site as well. So make sure you look out for one of your desired locations if it fits the role that you want to go into. Ben, in total, so the grads have obviously had loads of different experience and everything else. How many grads and interns are you looking to recruit this year?
So we've got quite high numbers actually. So we're looking at around about 50 graduates.
Yeah. And
around about 65 industrial placement students as well. And then we'll be, probably in the new year, we'll be recruiting for about 40 summer placements as well.
Okay, so you're going to have two different rounds. So on Monday, we're going to go live with your year-long internships and your graduate opportunities. And then in Jan, we're going to go live with your summer placements.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so message out to everybody. Obviously, if you're looking to do a summer placement, make sure you follow STFC, and then come January time, you'll be alerted. Like Matt said, sold it brilliantly. Like Matt said, you'll receive an email and push notification when the summer placement's open, and then you might as well go and follow STFC now to be alerted about their opportunities on Monday for the year-long interns and the graduate opportunities. Something else that I was kind of querying, Ben, I think it was Becky H when you spoke about the different placements. So the graduate program lasts for 2 years, and then there are 4 placements in total with 6 months. So do you get to choose which placement you go on?
So it depends. It depends. Some of our departments have placements.
Yeah.
So like Becky mentioned, SCD, Scientific Computing Department, you do rotate around 4. However, other departments, you just do the one, just the one role. Mm-hmm. So CLF, for example, you apply for the one role, and that's the one role that you'll be sort of in and looking after for the 2 years. So yes, it's a bit complicated like that, but yeah. They do rotational. But most of our other departments, it tends to be just the one role. But you still find yourself getting involved in all sorts of projects. Yeah. Well, it's not a case of you'll sit on one project for the entire graduate scheme. As Becky was mentioning, you find yourself working across a huge number of different projects throughout the time with us.
Yeah, and another thing, you mentioned it again, Becky and Jess, you kind of finished off on it as well, about the soft skills that the grads will learn and the interns will learn through their process there. And I know we mentioned about presentation skills and everything else and public speaking. For you as a recruiter, what sort of soft skills do you think that they will learn through the process? Good question. I am setting you up, Ben. I'm sorry, because I didn't prep you on any of this, but I just thought, I can ask that one.
It's really important. You get a huge variation of soft skills, I think, on this program. You know, you'll improve your communication skills, things like team working. You know, we really push working in teams and how you work as a team. Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of examples of activities that all our current grads have done. So you've got that, and other soft skills. Okay, it's a bit of everything, to be honest. I would say it's a really nice program, and yeah, as Becky was saying, it definitely is a real job from day one. But alongside your sort of technical learning, you're learning all sorts as well, in terms of you know teamwork, communication. There's all sorts of public speaking events that you can go to, and I think being a STEM ambassador really helps that as well, because you're not just learning how to communicate to one group of people. You know, one day you might have sorts of primary school age kids coming in to look around, and the next you might be at a conference in Spain, for example. So you know, there's such a variation.
I think as well, what I like about the STEM ambassador idea is that you're actually inspiring people as well. You know, people from such a young age that they might not know what they want to do when they're older. You know, they'll remember. You know, Becky, like you were saying about the Zoom sessions and everything else, they will remember back to this day when, you know, hopefully me and Jess will be interviewing, if we're not too old, interviewing a grad or an intern at STFC. It's like, so, you know, what inspired you? Oh, there was a lady that I did a webinar with called Becky. She had pink hair. We'll remember your pink hair, Becky. And she had pink hair. I mean, Jess would be like, that was 20 years ago. We interviewed Becky as well. So I think it is really good to be, you know, you're inspiring people as well as part of the process, which I think is good. And another thing that I really like is, and I think this was Becky F that picked up on this, about you are changing people's lives. You know, these things that you're working on at STFC, cancer research, everything else, you know, with the clean environment and everything, you are from day one hands-on experience, but you are changing lives, which again is something that I find quite inspiring about STFC. Then I'm going to go back to the script. Sorry about that. So obviously the application process, it's different this year, predominantly due to COVID. So what is the application process?
So we've made a few subtle changes to our recruitment process this year. So first of all, we'd ask that all candidates apply online. So you can apply through, if you find the role on GradCracker, it will take you straight through to our application portal. So all you need to do there is we ask that you submit a CV and a cover letter. Obviously really important in the cover letter to explain, you know, why you're applying, motivations, things like that. And then there's just a bit of an application form to fill out as well, you know, all the usual sorts of bits. So once that's done, obviously there'll be a short list, and then you'll get invited through to complete some online tests.
Yeah.
So we've got a new online test this year, and this is one of the new stages of our recruitment process. So everyone will have to go through that, and then after that there's a video interview. So it's not too long. There'll be around about sort of five questions or so. So we just want you to tell us a little bit about, you know, your motivation for STFC, why you're into science, why you want to go into engineering, for example, and a little bit about your technical knowledge as well that you've learned through university. And then finally, and this is, I suppose, this is the big change due to the current situation, we're going to run some assessment centres, but they're all going to be virtual. Yeah. So we are trying to make it as close as normal to a normal assessment centre, but it will be via Zoom or something like that. So throughout the day, you'll have a chance to speak to some current grads, chance to speak to hiring managers and HR as well. You know, there'll be a bit of a HR interview just to find out a little bit more about you as well. But we're trying to keep it as close to one of our normal assessment centres as possible. So yeah, that's our recruitment process for this year. And that's the same for both graduates and placements as well.
Okay, and just to pick up on a couple of things that you just mentioned there, Ben, so the online test, what is that? Is that a numerical test or general questions and answers?
It is, yeah. So it's sort of got three areas, I suppose. So it's numerical, deductive and inductive reasoning as well.
Okay.
And we'll have some hints and tips on our website as well that you can go and have a look at, say, if you've not done something like that before. But they normally take around about 20 minutes or so to complete, but yeah, it's sort of spread across those three areas.
Yeah, okay. And then what we'll do, Ben, at the end of this, we'll take the information and make sure it's live on GradCracker as well. So if you are at that stage of your journey, obviously make sure you do your research, look at all the information that there is on the hub as well, so you can be prepared for those tests. Again, just picking up on the application process, Ben, so how long from start to finish does the application process take? That's the first part of the question. And second part, so we're opening up on Monday, for example, for your year-long and your grad positions. When would a student find out if they're successful to those positions? And then come the new year, when we open for your summer, when would they hear if they're successful?
Yeah, so all of our assessment centres for our, well, both graduates and placements as well, are running sort of from very end of December, just before Christmas, and then throughout January as well.
Yeah.
So it will take around about a couple of months or so,
okay,
until we get to that stage. And then with summer placements, again, yeah, we're probably looking to do interviews, a couple of months, so April time,
okay,
early spring.
Yeah.
In terms of finding out, after those events, we try to get back to people really quickly. We aim for near enough the following day after the interview. So we do try and be as quick as possible there.
Super. And what's next year looking like for the grads and the interns? Is it going to be a virtual start, or is that kind of up in the air?
Hard to say at the moment. It's hard to say. So we are predominantly working from home at the moment. We do have sort of critical staff to keeping our facilities running are on site, but essentially those that can work and work well from home currently are working from home. So Matt, I know that you've probably done your entire placement so far from home. So it's really hard to say. I think we just have to. We'll see how it goes over the next few months. Of course, graduates will be starting September 2021, and placement students starting sort of June, July time again, 2021. So we've got a bit of time. We just need to see how things go. I think
that's common across the board, to be honest with you. And I think a lot of employers are still uncertain about what they're going to do. But yeah, what we're trying to do as GradCracker as a business, we're trying to keep all of our audience up to date with what the plans are for our recruiters. So for example, as soon as Ben knows what it's looking like next year, then obviously he'll let us know, and then we'll make sure it's included on the hub. So Ben, just to finish off with you then, what key hints and tips would you give a student or graduate applying to STFC?
So I think that there are three main ones. I was having a think before this about what I think they are, because actually three, I could sit here and go off.
Yeah.
I think one of the most important things to all applicants is to be yourself.
Yeah.
One of the key things is, of course, we want to see whether the position's right for you, but at the same time, we want you to be seeing whether STFC is right for you as well. So really do be yourself. Convey your enthusiasm, your motivation. Tell us why you got into engineering, and you want to sort of go down this route. So that's one of them. A second hint and tip is probably to make sure that you've reviewed the job advert as well in full.
Yeah.
So all of our job ads, they'll all be on GradCracker, so you can go and read through all of them there, and they'll be full sort of what you'd expect, sort of day to day, and what your responsibilities might be. And once you know that, and you know exactly what you'll be doing, you'll in the application form, cover letters and things like that, you'll be able to really pick out the right points to tell us why you want this job, why you're the right person. And then that sort of leads on to onto sort of the third one, really, which, as I say, just in your cover letter on the application form, really tell us about why you think you're the right person, why this job is suitable for you, why you want this placement, motivation, any technical knowledge as well, anything that you've learned that you think might, actually, this is going to be appropriate for this role. So tell us about it. Don't be afraid to sort of write a whole cover letter about why you think you're suitable, because we that's exactly what we want to see. Yeah, thank you very much, Ben. Yeah, it's been really interesting to hear from you all today. And I think as well, I say it nearly every week, but
you can't not do enough research. So make sure you do all your research, make sure, even reference it. You know, if I was a student and I was sat here watching this webinar, I would tell, you know, Ben and the recruiters that I watched your webinar, it was really insightful, and this is what made me want to work for STFC. You know, mention the points that the Beckys have made and Matt has made as well, and, you know, use them as their experiences to make you think, oh, actually, that's why I want to apply, and reference that. You know, this is what Ben and his team there really want to see. So yeah, thank you everybody. I'm just conscious of time. It's been really brilliant, really interesting. Thank you for all joining us today. Remember, everybody who's watching, you can re-watch the STFC webinar. It should be live tomorrow, and we'll break it up into different sections: careers advice, student journeys and everything else, and that will be on the site on Monday within the Career Centre, so make sure you go and check it out and have a look. As I said at the start, STFC are opening up their year-long placements and graduate opportunities on Monday, so follow them now so you don't miss out. Apply as soon as you can. Obviously, you know, opportunities might close a little bit sooner than expected, and students who are looking for a summer placement for 2021, make sure you follow to be alerted in January when they open their opportunities. Honestly, working in graduate recruitment, I'm just wishing my life away. I'm always thinking about next year all the time. It drives me crazy. Our next webinar, yes, so thanks STFC, you've been brilliant. Just to introduce the next webinar, so next week we are with ABB. I can't wait. The head of talent there, Jackie, is an absolute fan. She's lovely. I've worked with Jackie for about 10 years now, and she's brilliant. So I'm really excited to be joined by Jackie. ABB is a fascinating global engineering company. They cover a range of industries from electrification to robotics, automation, motion. So looking forward to seeing them next week. Register now, so you might be reminded to attend the webinar, and I'll see you next week. But just to finish with STFC, thanks very much for all joining us, and take care, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Bye everyone.
Thank you.
Bye everyone. Bye bye.